Hi guys, it's Kelly here, and we are back with the day 3 um, and final video for using Susie's birthday note paintables. And this is where we left off yesterday. We had added the shading, and today we're going to get into the background and the detail work. One of the things that I like to do to kind of make my colors pop and fill in my background is I will usually use a blue or a blue-green. Today we're using BG11 to outline my images because I have a tendency to use brighter colors. The pastels really help those colors to kind of stand up. One thing that you should be aware of when you're doing this is because you already have darker colors that are on the paper, if you drag your lighter color through it, so let's say you're not completely surrounding the image and you might have the tip of the marker that grazes a darker color, you can drag it through out into your outline. So especially the reds, I've had trouble with that. And if that happens, you can just hit it with a 0 marker. Try not to oversaturate it because it'll make the bleeding worse. But just kind of be aware where the edge of your outline should be. Also, you don't have to use a blue or a blue-green. That's just what I prefer because I feel like they're neutrals and that's my favorite color. But you can use whatever color you want to put in your background. My recommendation would just be to be a lighter color if you're working in a white background so that it kind of blends out. So this is what it looks like after we've outlined everything with just the blue-green. Now, one of my, it's kind of like my go-to, and I don't really know how it became, I don't like my signature thing, but I really like to add shadows. And the reason I like to add shadows is because it helps those letters to just kind of pop off the page. It gives it a multi-dimensional look. So today I went a little darker than I normally do. I opted to make my darkest color a C7. And I'm adding the C7 as if the light source is coming from the top right. So all my shadows are going to be to the bottom left. If you want to do this and you're new to it, my recommendation would be to pick one direction that you are comfortable with and stick with that until you're more comfortable with light sources. So just keep practicing that one light source. Mine is almost always at the top right. That's what I learned in high school and that's where I'm comfortable, so that's what I always do. Also, I'm adding the C7, but I'm not adding it to everything. I'm adding the C7 to what I would call the weightier objects, anything that would be large enough to cast a pretty dark shadow. Then I'm going to go back in with my C5. I'm going to blend out the C7, but then I'm also going to add that to some areas that maybe would still cast a shadow but aren't as weighty. So like the tulips, I didn't do each individual petal shadow with the C7. I didn't feel like I felt like it would be too dark. So I am adding it in, you'll see here, just a little bit with the C5. I usually will blend mine out, no matter how dark I've started, all the way out to the C1. And the reason is because I'm almost always working in a white background. That's just my preferred. But you don't have to blend it all the way out. It just depends on how strong you want your shadows to be. So if your light source is closer to an object, you're going to have a really strong short shadow. If your light source is further away, you're going to have a longer, more varied or lighter toward the edges shadow. So it's just going to depend on what you would like to do. I just prefer to blend it out to the C1. And that's basically, we're just going to keep doing that. So now we're onto the C3. We're going to start adding shadows to the stems because they are not as weighty of an object, so their shadow is not going to be as dark. And so the C3 is sufficient for just those little lines. And you're just blending, you're doing the same thing over and over again. And I know it can seem like maybe a little monotonous, but I haven't sped this up anymore. And honestly, it really does go much faster as you go, just because you already have those things in place. One of the other things I'm going to do is I'm finally going to add some shadows to that "your" in the middle. The reason that I don't do it with darker colors is because, I would like if it was legible. So if I had hit it with the C7, because it's almost, it's so close to black, the dark gray is so dark, you wouldn't even really be able to read it, which is not something that you want. You want your images to be legible, even though we're trying to add some different things and make it a little more unique. You still want it to be legible. So this is the C1. This is the last color that we're going to be doing. And again, we're just doing the same thing that we've been going over it. And this is 4 colors, so it might have been a bit much. But you could definitely do 3 or even 2 and just, do a C3 and a C1 just to see how it would look for you to get comfortable with that. And this is the entire thing. So all with all the shadows laid in, and it just it's super dimensional. Now we're going to talk about detail work. It's something that I almost always add. I totally believe in giving credit where credit is due. And the first person that I ever saw use the white gel pen was Kathy Ragusa. I never saw anybody do it before I saw Kathy do it. And it's like a thing. Everybody does it now. But she is where it originated. So you always want to start whatever white gel pen you're using. The one I prefer is the Jelly Roll. I know a lot of other people say that that's not their thing, but you always want to start it kind of on your finger or off the page to get the ink flowing. And this is great for those times like this A, where I was impatient. I didn't want to wait for the shading, but I still want those polka dots to be white. I'm going to go back in and film with my gel pen, and nobody will ever know that I was impatient and that I didn't wait or I didn't want to color around each and every single one of those dots. I added some highlights to the berries, and then I'm just going to add some little fun polka dots to some of my flowers. Your white detailing does not have to make sense. This is your card. Do whatever you want with it. Sometimes I do little circles or little lines. You can add tons of detailing in shirts for little characters. You can do whatever you want. The white gel pen is such a great tool to have in your arsenal. Also, I outline all of my images. And I was at lunch with a girlfriend, and she was like, okay, explain to me why you spend all of your time outlining images. It is baffling to me that you would take the time to do this. They're already outlined. And so we had been coloring over, it was actually dinner we were at. We were coloring over dinner because what else do you do when you go to dinner with a crafty friend but, color in the middle of a restaurant. And so I outlined half of the image, and I didn't outline the rest. And she was looking at it and she was like, yeah, okay, makes sense now. This will make your colors pop. It is something that you can do to clean up your edges, to make your colors a bit bolder, to make your image a bit cleaner. So I do it for almost every single card that I make. You don't have to. But if you've never tried it before, just give it a go. And if you're done with your Copic coloring, you don't even have to use a Copic Safe pen. You can just use whatever you have laying around. I always use a Copic Safe one because A, I like to do the doodling that we added in the beginning, but also because you never know when you're going to have to go back in and fix something up. So that's why I always do that. For the outlining, I don't always outline everything. Like you'll see, I'm just outlining the letters. I'm not going back in and doing each individual pattern. So you can select what you want to do. The other thing that I always have in my arsenal for all of my backgrounds that I love is glitter pens. I have the one on the right is a clear Wink of Stella, and the one on the left is the clear Spectrum Noir. I prefer the Wink of Stella. It is a little more gold. The Spectrum is a little more silver, but I have noticed with the Spectrum, and again, just depends on what look you're going for. With the Spectrum, if you put it over anything that's water-based, like Distress Inks or the Zig color markers, it does affect it. It affects the coloring. It doesn't on Copic, so I could have used it here and it would have been totally fine. But you just need to make sure that you know what you're getting yourself into. Because if you do a pretty watercolor background and then want to put glitter over top of it, I haven't had any issue with the Wink of Stella moving my pigment around. I have with the Spectrum Noir. So this is the entire card. I hope that you enjoyed the kind of step-by-step process. And I hope that it showed you that you can do it too, that it's not overwhelming. When you break it down, it really is just simple things that you can add to make yours. And you can add any of these or none of these, do your own thing, whatever. It's going to be beautiful at the end of the day. So thank you so much for joining me, and I will catch you guys on the next video.